Diamond Select Toys have had something of a recent resurge with their Marvel Select line over recent months, and over the last 3 weeks I've been able to review different figures from their Marvel Select line, which is tremendously exciting because it seems like there's huge gaps between releases and suddenly we're getting a lot more again. And today I'm going to be turning my attention to Iceman. Over the years, we've had quite a large proportion of X-Men represented in this line, so it's only fair that Iceman gets some well-deserved attention at long last. And it seems entirely appropriate, of course, because this is the 60th anniversary of the X-Men, so it could not be better timed. So let's dive straight into this by looking at the packaging. Well, it is the standard Marvel Select packaging. It is that oversized giant packaging that we all know and love. It is mostly window display and that big blister package that we see there. And the surrounding outer edges, of course, are made up of that collage effect of various images of Iceman across the years. But I particularly like how they've managed this one because we have that rather large central image next to the X logo of Iceman, which I think looks really cool and very attractive. So yeah, as always, this makes a tremendous display piece in and of itself. If we flip it over and look at the side panel, we can see that they've returned to the rather chunky side panels that we were used to get in this line, but recently they'd really narrowed these down and slimmed them out. Now, I'm actually a bit of a fan of the more narrow, slimmer approach because you can get more on your shelf and stand them side by side. And when your collection is as large as mine, any shelf-saving space is going to be much appreciated. However, it is nice to still see this big chunky packaging. We can see they've adopted for a photo, which seems to be, again, a recent trend with these figures rather than adopting some of the comic book images, which I don't mind which they go with. I just wish they keep it consistent so they all look the same on display. But anyway, it's a nice big text-free image, which I think looks attractive enough. Now, if we look at the reverse, again, we have another image of the figure itself. We have two different images showing off the various different looks that this character can have within this figure, and it looks really good and attractive. Again, in the background we have some collage images slightly larger than normal, which is interesting, and this still looks absolutely great. So as ever, the presentation of these figures is pretty spectacular, even if it's not doing anything particularly new. Now, straight off the bat, this figure reminded me very much of the Human Torch figure that we got last year. Both figures used translucent bodies, and both were slightly underwhelming when I saw them first announced, but both have impressed me upon opening. Now, the figure comes with two different head sculpts, and I have to say, both of these are pretty fantastic, and I really appreciate Diamond Select Toys giving us two different looks for this character. On the right hand side we have the traditional sort of bald look, and then on the left hand side we have the sort of hair effect with the frosting on top. Now, the sculpting for the face is pretty much identical, and each of the expressions seems to be pretty much the same, a sort of very serious stern face. I think this works really well. It's pretty neutral and can work in pretty much any scenario, any display you want to put him in. Obviously it is translucent plastic, but as you can see there is some nice washes and some nice paint details around the eyes in particular, and of course on top of the hair there to get that frosted effect. I think this works really well. It's very effective and really well rendered. Likewise, the sculpting on the body is pretty nicely done as well. I'm not sure whether they've just recycled the Human Torch body here. I feel like they may have done for the most part, but I think that's entirely appropriate. They're roughly the same size and build, and obviously both translucent, although in different coloured plastics. One of the things I really like about this figure though is the gradients in colours in the plastic, moving from the very deeper, darker blues to the more frosted whites. And although you can see the interior joints and mechanisms inside the figure, it actually doesn't distract too much because it does kind of pass for icing, so it kind of gets away with it. The articulation on this figure is pretty fantastic too. There is a ball joint at the top of the neck, so of course he can spin his head all the way around, lean it left and right, and even nod it up and down a pretty healthy distance as well. So I couldn't really ask for more from this. This looks pretty nice. Now, there's ball joints on the shoulders. Again, he can lift his arms all the way up and out. No resistance here. There's a complementary bicep swivel, which is fantastic. There is a pin swivel at the elbow, which is a little bit disappointing. I think I would have rather had double joints here, but nevertheless, he can hinge his arm to about 90 degrees and swivel that lower arm around. There's another pin swivel at the wrist, of course, so again, the hand does exactly the same thing. You can spin it all the way around and it hinges forwards and backwards. There's 2 points of articulation in the torso. There's one in the upper chest, which is great. There's a ball joint here. You can lean it left and right, move side to side, bend forwards and backwards, and there's a pretty decent range of motion in all of this, which is fantastic. But there is also a swivel at the waist as well. Then there's ball joints in the hips, the legs will kick out to the side, there's an upper thigh swivel there, the legs will kick forwards, they'll kick backwards, and then there is finally another pin swivel at the knee, so you can bend that leg to roughly 90 degrees and you can rotate it from side to side. Finally, there is a sort of ankle pivot at the ankle, so of course it will hinge forwards and backwards, but it will also pivot from side to side. Before I look at accessories, I do just want to show off the translucent plastic. When you shine a light behind it, you can really see the full effect of how this works. And I think this looks really dramatic. It's really very cool. So if you can strategically place your lights, this could look very impressive in a display. Okay, so there's actually quite a few accessories that come with Iceman, including an extra alternative belt, an alternate head, 2 ice projectiles coming from his hand, an alternate hand with firing icicles, and a display stand with 2 posable poles. This is absolutely fantastic stuff. We haven't had a proper display base for a very long time in this line, and it feels like Diamond Select have thrown everything at this release, everything you could possibly ask for. Now, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what to do with these 2 display poles. There are peg holes on his feet, and you can plug these into the base, but I'm not quite sure how that would work particularly. He doesn't seem to have any peg holes in his back, so I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with this, so sorry I can't demo this to you. But nevertheless, the display stand itself is really very cool. You can pop him on here, and this looks really impressive, especially if you add in those alternate hands as well with the ice effects coming out of them, because it looks like, of course, he's creating his snow slide or his ice slide. And yeah, this is really cool, very impressive, and it just really elevates this figure, literally as well as figuratively, I suppose. This is really dramatic. I think this is a significant offering from Diamond Select, and I think they've really nailed this. And I'm really pleased to say that between all these various different accessories, you've actually got a huge range of options to create very different dynamic looks of this character. Whether you're changing the head sculpt out, the belt, the different hands, however you want to use them, you've got actually a lot of opportunities, and you can have a lot of fun creating different looks and displays with this character in. So I think this is really customizable, I think this is really fun, and overall, pretty fantastic stuff. Now, for a quick scale comparison, here he is standing next to the Marvel Select Apocalypse that I looked at last week. As you can see, he's a little bit shorter. He is roughly 7 inches tall, so he's in line with the other figures in this collection, and this scaling looks really healthy, very natural from what I've seen on the comic book page. So really like this. I think this works tremendously well. Okay then, final thoughts from me. I'm going to award this figure 4 stars. Now, I've got to be honest, I've kind of gone back and forth whether I was going to give it 5 or 4, because this figure is excellent on so many levels. I think it's really well executed. I really like the translucent plastic. I love the shading and the paint apps. I think the articulation is fantastic, pretty much pitch perfect. I couldn't really ask for more, except for maybe double joints in the elbows and in the knees. And that's probably my only minor criticism of this figure. Is it enough to take it away a star? Well, I guess you need to decide that for yourselves. For me, it does warrant it, but yeah, it is a close call. Overall, everything else about this figure is just pitch perfect. I love that we get all these different accessories, these alternate heads and hands and these effects. I think it looks really cool. I'm glad that we basically get 2 different versions of Iceman, a traditional and more modern look. Both really cool to have. And then having the display stand back in our collection at long last. I mean, this is something that used to be really fantastic about the Marvel Select line, and it's something we haven't seen an awful lot of in recent years. We did get it with the Human Torch, and we've got it again now with Iceman, and I hope this is a sign that maybe this is going to be coming back, at least with these smaller figures. Very much appreciated. So all in all, yeah, a tough one to call, but an absolutely fantastic figure. I think you can have supreme confidence that this is a really nice figure to add to your collection. So if you're an X-Men fan, or if you're a Marvel Select fan, then you're probably going to want to pick this guy up, because he's really very nice. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.